When it comes to memories, few journalists in the media-soaked city can match Bob Schieffer. Bob is CBS News chief Washington correspondent and host of Face the Nation, and he hasn't missed a presidential inauguration in nearly 50 years.
Naturally, we wanted to hear from our very own witness to inaugural history, so recently I sat down with him on the set of Face the Nation. Bob, this is going to be your 13th inauguration?
I think so.
Do you still get excited by these?
Oh, I really do. I mean, there's nothing like it. It's all out there right in front of you. Everything that we are as a country, what we stand for, it's an affirmation. Most of all, it is an example of what this country is, and that we are, first of all, a nation of laws. Right. I mean, the appointed hour comes and the old president leaves, the new president comes in. There's never any question about it. They don't have to use guns. There's never any doubt. That doesn't happen in a lot of places in the world.
I don't think it happens in most places in the world.
And to me, that's the most wonderful part of it.
Yeah. Your first inauguration was 1965.
Yes.
Lyndon Johnson. What brought you to the inauguration then?
Well, I was a reporter at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Lyndon Johnson, of course, was from Texas, and our congressman was Jim Wright. And my mother had worked in precinct politics, and somebody in Jim Wright's office said, "Would you like to have some tickets to the inauguration?" And so we came, and it was a wonderful time.
What do you remember about it most?
Well, just seeing Washington, really, and seeing everything seemed bigger than life. The buildings seemed bigger than any buildings I'd seen before. The Capitol, and the politicians. I mean, and just seeing them, they somehow, I felt like I was in the land of the giants. Sometimes I don't feel that way anymore, but I still love Washington.
And actually, things were probably a lot smaller then, in many ways, in terms of the scale.
Not in terms of the politicians.
1969. You were, at that point, you were almost at CBS, but not quite.
Yeah, I had left the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I had come here. I'd been hired by a Washington television station, and my first assignment, my first Washington story, was to cover the inauguration of Richard Nixon. Now, I didn't get the key assignment. I got assigned to cover a protest group called the Yippies, led by someone named Abby Hoffman. And what they did is they decided to inaugurate a pig in protest of Nixon being elected. And so they had this little ceremony down at the Washington Monument. It was raining. They got the pig out. You know what happened next. The pig got loose, and we spent about an hour chasing this pig around in this mud.
It was a unique 60s experience, though, Bob.
It really was.
What do you remember about Jimmy Carter's inauguration?
Walter, I'm over here in the area reserved for the senators.
That he walked. You know, Jimmy Carter, his whole deal was that he was this everyman, a man of the people. During the campaign, he had insisted on carrying his own hanging bag with his clothes in it when he'd get off the airplane charter. And so he decided to walk a good part of the way up Pennsylvania Avenue. And so he did.
Then came Ronald Reagan, who turned everything around.
Yeah. And of course, the Reagan inauguration, we had these American hostages being held in Iran, and they refused to release them until Ronald Reagan actually took the oath. And when he took the oath, then it came over the air that they had released these Americans.
Yeah.
Some 30 minutes ago, the planes bearing our prisoners left Iranian airspace and are now free of Iran.
Inaugurations are the time where you always kind of get a look into the future. You're reminded of the past and all the traditions and all of that. But what you hear at the inauguration does not always accurately forecast what you're going to see in the years that follow. I mean, I don't think we heard very much in George Bush's first inaugural speech about the threat of terrorism, and yet that dominated the 8 years of his presidency.
Actually, the mood 4 years ago when President Obama was first inaugurated didn't play itself out, really, did it?
No, but, I must say, of all the inaugurations that I have seen, Obama's inauguration was the one that I'll probably remember. I mean, most of all. It was truly historic. You had the first African-American elected president. He had campaigned on this campaign of hope, of yes, we can. And to be up there on Capitol Hill and to look down the mall and to see literally millions of people out there. It is the largest crowd ever assembled in Washington in the history of this Capitol, and to see this great mass of people. And there was a spirit of hope. Maybe it didn't last very long, but for one brief shining moment, there it was. And you kind of saw, I think in some ways, America at its best in that moment.
Bob Schieffer, thanks very much.
You bet.
And Bob will have much more on this year's presidential inauguration on Face the Nation tomorrow morning at 10:30 Eastern Time.